Hello there, everyone. Welcome to GamePoints episode 233, your weekly get-together where we talk about recent gaming news. I'm, as always, your host, Stephen Brown. Joining me today is...
I'm David.
David, tonight we have a whole bunch of stuff that has just happened over the past few days or so. We have Microsoft buying ZeniMax, we have the PlayStation 5 dated in price, Final Fantasy 16 was revealed, and just a whole bunch of more stuff that we're going to get into. But first, I want to remind everyone here that this is an audience interactive podcast. So if you're watching live here every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time over at Twitch TV/GamePoints, feel free to join in the conversation. And of course, if you can't watch us live and you watch us later at youtube.com/GamePointsPC, feel free to comment down below. All that good stuff. And of course, the typical YouTuber/Twitch streamer spiel. If you like what you see, press the various buttons that you see everywhere to show that support.
Just click all the buttons on your screen.
Everything. David.
Click all the buttons.
Yes. David. I know normally I'd ask what you were doing over the weekend and all that good stuff and try to fill in time because we don't have enough, but I think we got enough show here. So I'm going to go ahead and move into the most important thing that was announced over the past week. And it's not Microsoft buying ZeniMax. It's not the PlayStation 5 price and dated. It is, in fact, the fact that the IO Interactive game Freedom Fighters has finally been re-released on Steam, Epic, and Good Old Games. Now, do you know what Freedom Fighters was, David?
It's a video game that you've been obsessed with for as long as I've known you.
Freedom Fighters is essentially Red Dawn, the video game. Set in an alternate history of the Soviets.
I thought that was Homeland.
What was that?
I thought that was that Homeland game.
No, Homeland was North Korea. I'm talking the good Red Dawn, not the fake Red Dawn they made to appease China. I'm talking the actual one written by John Milanez, where he beat the hell out of the Ruskies and the Cubans.
Okay.
This game was really goddamn good. Believe it or not, it actually was a really good game. They were going to make a sequel. It eventually morphed into Kane and Lynch. It wasn't that great, but Freedom Fighters has always held a special place in my heart.
Kane and Lynch has had more sequels than Freedom Fighters, so take that.
It's because you can't dilute the purity of Freedom Fighters. Yeah, Star Wars has had more sequel than any of them. We're going to argue that 6 out of those 9 movies aren't complete garbage? Come on. Freedom Fighters, however, always just... For some reason, it rang with me really hard from a gameplay perspective. I'm not even talking about the fantasy of blowing down Russians, which has always been kind of like in the back of my head that I'm really upset the Cold War ended over. But I am very happy to see this game get re-released on PC. It was on PC a while ago, but it was before all the digital distribution services popped up, so you could only buy it on disc, and even then you'd have to do some weird workarounds to get it running. Now you can find it everywhere, on digital platforms, I should say. And I will be streaming that probably tomorrow, more than likely. So something to keep an eye out for.
Looking at the graphics of this game makes me think it released around the time that we saw Time Splitters 2.
Yeah, it was 2003 when this game first came out.
All right.
So it would be around that. It was a PlayStation 2 game.
Okay.
So,
yeah,
there you go.
That all tracks.
I love this goddamn thing, though, and I will be streaming it this week. So I am very excited to see IO Interactive doing this because this is the first step in giving us a Freedom Fighters 2. We have to test the waters, see if the game is still...
Who owns the license right now?
They do. IO Interactive does. When IO Interactive left IDOS, / Square Enix... not IDOS. I'm sorry, not IDOS. Square Enix. Mm-hmm. Square Enix let them have it all.
Damn.
IO Interactive owns the rights to Freedom Fighters. I think Kane and Lynch as well. I'm not 100% positive on that. And Hitman.
Cool.
Like, they just gave up those IPs. So that was very shocking to see. Because normally when a company buys someone else, they keep a hold of the IP rather.
Yeah.
And while on that topic, let's move into what actually is the biggest news of the week. And no, it is not the PlayStation 5 price point reveal, in my opinion. This happened yesterday, and it is Microsoft buying ZeniMax.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. We'll talk about it a little, and then I'll say what I'm going to say.
Let me set up for the press release here 2 paragraphs, and then we'll get into it. Mm-hmm. Microsoft on Monday announced plans to acquire ZeniMax Media, the parent company of Bethesda Softworks, one of the largest privately held game developers and publishers in the world. The creators of critically acclaimed best-selling game franchises, including The Elder Scrolls and Fallout, among many others. Microsoft will acquire ZeniMax Media for $7.5 billion in cash. Important to note the in-cash part, because a lot of times these deals are made with stock. It's like part cash, part stock. This is straight cash, baby, and a lot of it for being just straight cash. The planned acquisition includes publishing offices and development studios spanning the globe with over 2,300 employees, including, and this list is impressive when you realize exactly everything Bethesda owned. Bethesda Softworks, Bethesda Game Studios, id Software, ZeniMax Online Studios, Arcane, Machine Games, Tango Gameworks, Alpha Dog, and Roundhouse Studios. Bethesda's critically acclaimed and best-selling franchises include The Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Doom, Quake, Wolfenstein, and Dishonored, among others. What do you think, David? What's your first opinion of this out the gate?
Microsoft got robbed.
Really? Why is that?
Disney bought Marvel for $4 billion.
Did they? Was it only $4 billion for Disney buying Marvel?
Yes. Okay. Marvel is worth $4 billion. Okay. And I'm just thinking the amount of money that's been printed with that license since that acquisition. Don't get me wrong, Bethesda has been a very big, influential studio in the game space, but in my opinion has been just mostly a shit show for the last 2 years.
To touch off on that, one of the points I did want to bring up is, let's take a look at the games they've released over the past 2 years. You had Fallout 76. You had Rage 2. You had Wolfenstein 2 and Wolfenstein Youngblood. While the first new Wolfenstein game was pretty solid, the last two games it kind of sucked. The Evil Within 2. I love The Evil Within 2. It has one of the greatest self-aware moments in video games I've ever seen. That game didn't sell too well. The Dishonored series never really took off. Prey never really took off. The Elder Scrolls Online, while has some success, is not like the big MMO they were hoping it would be. I agree with you to a degree.
The only franchise that's currently worth a damn coming out of those studios is Doom.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And
while
that
Doom
is why they were willing to sell.
Really damn good. I don't think Doom is worth $7.5 billion in cash.
No. But
so that's all I'm pointing out. Yes, if Bethesda can get their shit together and try and recoup some amount of like public goodwill, because they had a huge blank check of goodwill for the longest time, like almost Nintendo levels of fandom.
People let the problems that were in Fallout and Elder Scrolls slide because at the base they were good games.
Yep, and then that just became what that studio kind of did, and I don't know. I mean, it's hard to actually argue because games are worth more than movies, right? Like the game industry makes more than the movie industry.
Makes significantly more money than the Hollywood industry, the movie industry.
It's just, to me, like, as soon as I saw the number, I was like, isn't that more? And I looked it up, and I'm like, that's almost double what they paid for Marvel. And I just feel like that Marvel license has printed Disney so much more money than this Bethesda or ZeniMax purchase will print for Microsoft. Now,
I don't know if that's the case, though.
That being said, Microsoft is in a unique position where they have the money, and fuck it, if they can sit on this for 10 years, and when we're all playing Skyrim on our PS6s and our smart fridges and our thermostats and every other fucking thing that they figure out how to put Skyrim on, maybe it ends up being worth it. I think it's such a big, ridiculous amount of money. I
think that this purchase, while $7.5 million might sound high, and I see where you're coming from. I didn't know Marvel was bought for $4 billion. I'm sorry, $7.5 billion. I didn't know Marvel was bought for $4 billion. A couple things to keep in mind, though. Marvel went through a massive period where they almost declared bankruptcy more than a few times, especially in the late 90s all the way up to like the mid-2000s or so. And fair. Marvel as a whole is still doing really, really badly. Their Marvel Studios doing gangbusters. Marvel as a whole, major problems.
I'm just saying.
When it comes to the purchase of ZeniMax Media itself, don't look at this in a vacuum. Look at this as a force multiplier. And what do I mean by that is, for example, the biggest thing that I can point out is the people that make the new Fallout are now in the same umbrella as the people who made the old Fallout with NXL and Obsidian.
Which is what everybody's excited about. It's like, oh man, maybe we'll get that delightful, amazing Fallout game. And in an ideal world, Microsoft just literally takes the Fallout license from Bethesda, tells them to go play with their own shit, and gives it to the people who should be working on it in the first place.
Absolutely, I absolutely agree. I think that with the talent that Microsoft has from all those old veteran game developers of those studios they spent the past year or so buying up, you combine that with what we got here, I think you can make some amazing stuff with. A few things.
Like these are franchises that could put out some amazing games.
Yes.
I just haven't trusted Bethesda to make any good video games.
Fortunately, it's not Bethesda's problem anymore. They're just now a development team. It's Microsoft that's pushing it. A few things that I want also people to recognize is, yes, everyone's talking about New Vegas 2, and Obsidian is certainly teasing that shit already. We're way too early in this deal. None of those plans have been made yet.
No chance.
At all. Sony was rumored was in talks as recently as a few weeks ago for exclusive time Starfield content, up to and including releasing Starfield exclusively on the PlayStation 5 for like a year. That's fucked. Mm-hmm. Or Sony has to pay out the ass for it. That said, all the deals that Sony has already made with Bethesda...
Anything the ink's dry on.
Yeah, so Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo were supposed to be PS5 exclusive, I believe.
Yep.
Those are being honored still, and that's likely because of legal agreements already in place. Usually when these deals happen, say Microsoft buys Bethesda, they also have to agree to take over any outstanding debt they have. They have to uphold any agreements they currently have in place, any contractual obligations. That's all usually part of that. So we're going to run into that not so unusual anymore situation where Microsoft is publishing a game on Sony, much like they did with Minecraft.
Mm-hmm.
So precedent's already been set with it. Todd Howard and all the other brains at Bethesda likely also locked in on this contract for about 5 years. So anyone that has a big enough name that would have been included in the talks on this probably had to sign something that says, I will stay with the company for 5 years. Because what Microsoft doesn't want is for talent drain to happen once Microsoft buys it.
They get the license, and then all the talented people that were working there just immediately bail, because that doesn't really work out.
This is why when EA bought BioWare, the two founders, Ray Mazuka and Greg Zeschuk, I can never pronounce their names, they stayed on for 5 years and left almost 5 years exactly after EA bought them. Mm-hmm. It was never said, but you can assume that they both had 5-year contracts to stay on with BioWare until then. Or
there you go.
Or they probably could have left early, but might have left a massive bonus on the table. Something like that has happened. So don't expect Todd Howard to just suddenly disappear. Don't expect... oh my god, I can't think of his name. The guy that's currently working on Dooms. Not John Carmack. I'm not talking about the old Dooms. I'm talking about the new Dooms, whose name escapes me right now.
That being said,
he's probably
John Carmack could potentially show up again.
Yeah, he actually tweeted out saying, hey, this company actually doesn't have a grudge with me. Not too sure what that meant, like what company might have had a grudge with him before, but he's talking about possibly revisiting his old IPs again. Good to see that.
Well, I don't think Bethesda let him work on Doom when Doom came back.
Yeah, I think that's what he was referring to, is that there was a company that had a grudge against him. I think it was Bethesda, but Bethesda doesn't get to make that decision, or ZeniMax, rather. ZeniMax doesn't get to make that decision anymore. This is possibly one of the biggest acquisitions I have ever seen in games.
Yeah, it's huge.
We get these smaller ones. I mentioned the EA BioWare thing before, but those are all... EA had a bunch of studios they bought independently of each other. For example, EA bought BioWare, EA bought Maxis, EA bought Westwood Studios and all that stuff.
This is a whole other level than what THQ Nordic's been doing also.
Never all at once, though.
Yeah.
And to give you an idea of the studios that Microsoft currently has under their belt, let me read off this list real quick. And these
keeping in mind that 9 of them were acquired like last year around E3 time.
All this stuff is within like 1 year of purchase, give or take, 1 year to 18 months.
Yep.
Microsoft owns. This is not has agreements with. This is owns 343 Industries, which makes Halo. Arcane Studios, these are the guys that do Dishonored, Deathloop, and Prey. Bethesda Game Studios, Fallrim and Skyrim. Or Fallout and Elder Scrolls, rather.
There you go.
Compulsion Games, who did We Happy Few and Contrast. We pretend We Happy Few didn't exist, though. So, Double Fine, Psychonauts, Brutal Legend, etc. id Software, Doom, Quake, Wolf. It's every first-person shooter that you can think of, for the most part. That was of reasonable quality. In Exile, Wasteland, and the Bard's Tale. And Wasteland, founded by Brian Fargo, the guy who helped create the original Fallout.
Yes.
Machine Games, these are the people who now do the new Wolfenstein games. Mojang, Minecraft. Remember, Microsoft owns Minecraft.
Yeah, 100%.
Ninja Theory, DMC, Hellbraid, what was that PlayStation game? Heavenly Sword? Enslaved?
Oh, man, why would you even bring that up?
Just cuz. Obsidian, Outer Worlds, Fallout New Vegas, Grounded, also made of vets from Black Isle, who made the Baldur's Gate stuff. Essentially, all Interplay, which made Fallout, which made Baldur's Gate, those teams split up into Obsidian and Exile, and now they're both under the same umbrella with half those IPs back under them again. That's exciting. Playground Games, these guys that make Forza Horizon. Rare, they own goddamn Rare. I keep forgetting Microsoft owns Rare. Now, to be fair, Rare's glory days are behind them.
Yeah, and they haven't really done anything for a long time.
But Sea of Thieves, the new Battletoads, Banjo-Kazooie, Tango Gameworks, which is Shinji Mikami's studio. They make The Evil Within and a couple other things whose names escape me right now. I think Shadows of the Damned. That might not have been I think that might have been Grasshopper. I might be getting Grasshopper confused with Tango Gameworks. Oh well. The Coalition, so Gears of War. The Initiative, which hasn't announced anything yet, but it was a studio founded to create new first-party projects. Turn 10 for Forza Motorsport. Undead Labs for State of Decay. World's Edge, which are doing all the new Age of Empires stuff. And then ZeniMax Studios Online. These are the people that do the Bethesda's online stuff. So The Elder Scrolls Online, Fallout 76, etc. They have a massive stable of talent now. That dwarfs what Sony has right now. Because Sony has spent the past few years actually closing other studios.
Yes. They've, consolidated things.
Yeah. What do you think about all of this? I know we kind of gave an overview that you think they got robbed or anything like that, but all of this.
I don't think it's wise to expect anything suddenly. Don't expect the Microsoft Bethesda purchase to matter really anytime in the next 2 years.
I don't know about 2 years, but I would be shocked if we didn't get some major game announcements by E3 of next year, if there whatever the E3 equivalent is.
You'll get announcements, but don't expect to be playing any crazy Microsoft Bethesda games anytime soon.
No, they could come out and announce New Vegas 2 today, and you're still not getting it for at least another 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and then that's the big thing I'm saying. But they do have a big stable. They're really pushing on having their own titles come out, and a lot of this is to make Game Pass more attractive. Let's be real. Because
that is now I know we've said it before, but that is absolutely a no-brainer now.
Yeah, they also raised the price on it. Did you hear?
What is it now?
$10.
What was it before?
$5.
See, I thought it was always $10 for consoles, but only $5 for PCs for a while there.
Well, I've only ever had it on PC. So.
Yeah, so I don't have any horse in that race.
Yep.
Do you think? So I have an idea on this, but do you think that the next Elder Scrolls and the next Fallout will be Xbox only? And PC. Let's leave PC out of this conversation because everything they do will always be put on PC.
I doubt it.
You don't think so? You think that Microsoft will publish Starfield?
That's leaving money on the table.
How much money? Is it worth? Is it worth them to force people to buy an Xbox to play the new Elder Scrolls?
They don't care if you buy an Xbox. They care if you buy a Game Pass.
Would it be enough for them to force to buy Game Pass to play the new Elder Scrolls? Because you don't get Game Pass on PlayStation.
I cannot safely answer this question at this time because at this moment there are not enough pieces of hardware representing either of the major console manufacturers to have any idea of what kind of user base these systems will have around the time of those games' release.
That is a good point, because if Microsoft eats it on this generation like they did the last generation...
Microsoft gets completely fucked,
yeah,
and Sony sells gangbusters of PlayStations, then hell fucking yeah, the next Elder Scrolls is going to come on a PlayStation, because, like I said, they're losing money if they don't. The reason Skyrim is constantly talked about is because it's on literally every damn device you can think of.
Skyrim is a system seller. Or we keep calling it Skyrim. The Elder Scrolls is a system seller.
That's true. But I think Skyrim has kind of changed the franchise from being a system seller to being just a game that you buy 20 times. And if they don't make it available everywhere, how are you going to buy it 20 times?
What if they did like a 1-year exclusivity on it, though? Only on Xbox for the first year.
I mean, that's a classic Sony move. and it's far more likely than being a complete exclusive.
Okay. That's kind of where I see them going with it, because they you don't buy for, what was it, $7.5 billion. You don't buy a studio or a conglomerate of studios like this and then put that shit on your competitor system. You spend this money to convince people to buy your shit first. So I do expect a bunch of timed exclusivities.
Yeah, see, I see
on the
timed
stuff.
exclusives, but something like Elder Scrolls, I don't see being stuck on one console.
Yeah, and it will all come out on PC same day and date, because Microsoft wants that money there. The PC market's so different from that, which is why at the end of the day,
it doesn't matter.
For either one of us, it doesn't actually matter on that. And I am now talking specifically just for you and I, and to any other big PC owner. If you are a PlayStation guy, I'd be a little bit concerned about this, because I personally am of the idea that you're going to be missing out on these big games for at least a year. I don't think they won't be released on PlayStation day and date.
But this is like 2 games, and Sony will still have exclusives.
Well, it's 2 games from Bethesda, sure. But it also means Doom 3, whatever that might be, will be timed exclusive on Xbox. It means that whatever Arcane makes after Deathloop, anything that's announced now, will be on PlayStation 5. Like Deathloop, etc.
While the list of Microsoft Studios is impressive, there's not a single game on that list that would get me to buy an Xbox over a PlayStation.
It's same here. Because everything that's on Xbox is also on PC. We both have PC.
No, taking that out of the equation.
Okay.
Saying I was a console player, as a whole, the entire list of games that these studios have made do not interest me more than what you can get on a Sony system.
Okay.
Like, I would rather play Spider-Man and Horizon Zero Dawn than play Doom 3.
Okay. That's fair. That's completely and totally fair.
Because I don't expect Elder Scrolls to come out for a really long time. And yeah, there could be some crazy, awesome games coming out at some point that we're just not aware of yet. But just going off the list alone, it's cool. It's awesome. I'm excited for them to actually hit some stuff and have things in-house and give people a reason to buy an Xbox. But I don't know. It's just not for me, I guess.
I do think, though, that ZeniMax selling, it was an indicator of how troubled they actually were, because you hit the nail on the head right out the gate. The last 2 years or so, none of these studios outside of id have really produced any bangers.
Yep.
And making video games is expensive.
Hell yeah.
So when they said they sold, I was like shocked, and then I went, wait a minute, let's actually think about this. So that doesn't surprise me. I want to leave with one final point before we move on to the PlayStation 5 Showcase.
Okay.
While we all think Microsoft is doing really cool, they got some big consumer-friendly shit coming out, let us not forget this is the same company that tried to bully game developers into the whole Games for Windows Live bullshit a few years back.
Hell yeah.
So, today's hero can easily become yesterday's villain. Tomorrow.
I was like, wait. I don't know if that tracks all.
No, it does. Today's hero.
Yeah, I get it.
Could become yesterday's villain tomorrow.
Again, yeah, I get it.
The future's future today, presented tomorrow.
Nice.
So yeah, let us know what you think about this Microsoft deal going down. I get that the Sony fanboys, the Sony, and there is something to be said about consolidation of many studios. There are fears of you don't want too many places under one thing, because then you get the weird Disney situation where they own your childhood.
Yep.
And that's kind of bad. I don't think this is anywhere near that, though, because there's so many game studios out there. There's so many other games out there. Microsoft can make all this exclusive to Xbox only, and you can still have a shit ton of games to play without Xbox.
Yeah, I mean, they still don't own my childhood. I think THQ Nordic owns my childhood.
Fair, yeah.
Or close enough to it.
just things to consider. It is certainly huge. I absolutely believe that this is a great move for Microsoft. I think with the talent they already had, specifically Obsidian in Exile, that they could do some amazing stuff with this. But we'll see how it shakes out. David, I'm going to go ahead and let you take over the PlayStation 5 Showcase that happened last week. One thing to note, this is not a comprehensive list of what was shown during then. This is just the bigger things that I wanted to bring up. So
yep. We did have that showcase. It wasn't too long.
I think it was like 50 minutes, give or take.
Yeah, I think it was fairly brisk, right? I don't think it dragged on too long. I don't know, it had some slow moments,
As,
but
as,
there
as
was.
far as showcases go, or directs go, or whatever you want to call them, it was good. I thought it was a real good one.
Yeah, and it especially helped that it showed off for the first time something that I think we all knew was coming, but not anytime soon. Final Fantasy 16.
I was really shocked to see this here. I mean,
I was absolutely shocked to see this.
obvious it was coming, but I didn't expect this. When I first saw it, in fact, I thought it was The Last Remnant 2. I even said as much on the. If you can look at the VOD, I even say it on the stream like, "What is this, Last Remnant 2?" Which is funny because the guy who directed The Last Remnant is the director to this one.
Hilarious. So, Final Fantasy 16 or Final Fantasy 14 producer and director Naoka Yoshida is involved as the producer. Hiroshi Takai, who directed Last Remnant, is the director. This game looked pretty damn great. I am way, way more excited about Final Fantasy 16 than I have been about Final Fantasies in a little bit, and I will tell you why. I don't give two shits about teenage boys go on a road trip. I don't.
Fair enough.
Final Fantasy 15 can go fuck itself.
If Final Fantasy 15 would have been finished, I'd be all over. I liked what I saw of Final Fantasy 15, and then they said they're going to keep telling the story through the extra DLC, and I was like, okay, I'll just wait till all the DLC comes out.
This game gives me Ivalice vibes. This game gives me actual fantasy, Final Fantasy vibes.
It's funny you mention that because I can't remember who it was. I can't remember if it's Takai or Yoshida, but one of them said if they were ever given a chance to direct a Final Fantasy, one of them said, I would make it more fantasy and less mecha anime stuff. Yep. They were saying they wanted to pull back from the technology. They didn't want any mechs, and they wanted, at best, maybe basic gunpowder for technology level.
Let's go back. Let's go back. Just take it back.
So they're definitely going back to that old vibe that we haven't seen since probably 9.
The combat in this trailer looked flippin' awesome.
It reminded me of a
lot of people are
spin-off,
mourning the death of turn-based combat, but let's be real. Turn-based combat isn't going to keep anybody's attention.
It has its place, but not in something big budget like this.
Not anymore.
No.
I mean, you kind of have to go to Dragon Quest if you still want to play a turn-based RPG.
I don't even consider that big and flashy, though. That still looks like it could have been, 15 years ago.
Yeah, and this is a big, flashy game, and it just, I don't know, it looked tight. Some of the combat moves looked legitimately fun, so...
I like the idea. We don't really know too much about the story yet, but I like the idea that it seems to be like a revenge tale.
Mm-hmm.
Like how this dude's like, I'm going to kill this son of a bitch. And I don't know if that's the protagonist.
It also looks like while he's fighting, it's like the summons that he's using are like coming out in his attacks. I don't know. It looks sick.
Yeah, this is why I thought it was like The Last Remnant. Because The Last Remnant had, like, the way this is all supposition, all making assumptions about what I saw in that trailer. It looked like the way summons in this work is that it's not that, oh, I find the crystal and I can summon something. It's that certain people are tuned into specific summons. For example, this child can summon Phoenix. Yeah. That person can summon Shiva. And that is just, like, when they die, it probably goes to someone else. That's kind of how The Last Remnant operated, where people had something specific they could do. And only that person could do it.
Yeah. Like a classic class or job-based party system.
Yeah, but it was more unique than that, though. It's like this person who's born...
That was an extra level to it.
Yeah. This person who's born is the Dalai Lama. There can only be one Dalai Lama until that person dies. Similar idea. Only this person can summon Shiva. When that person dies, Shiva goes to someone else.
Also shown off, probably a year and a half too late, Hogwarts Legacy, coming 2021.
Does feel a little bit behind when it should have been.
This is the Harry Potter action RPG that I think people really, really wanted 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago.
Harry Potter's still a big franchise, but not at it. The the time to strike on this does feel about, like you said, 4 or 5 years old already.
I mean, even that, the creator, I'm not going to get into it, but the creator is not super popular on Twitter as they once were.
True. On Twitter, she is very maligned, but also keep in mind, Twitter is not real life, and I'd be willing to bet the vast majority of her fan base has no idea.
That's true.
I saw this. It looked way better than I thought it was going to.
See, the fun thing for me is that I don't have to care because I've never given a shit about Harry Potter.
Same here. I mean, I enjoy the movies, but I've never read the books. I'm not like a super fan of it.
Never seen one. Never seen a movie. Never read a book.
Don't have to.
I thought it was dumb when I was 14. I still think it's dumb now.
I did watch this trailer though, and I kind of went back and went, huh. There's more to this game than I thought there was going to be. It showed off, I think, very well during this trailer.
It was definitely stylish.
Yeah.
It definitely had that magic, and I'm sure some people are super excited about it. We also saw Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. Take advantage of the power of next generation of consoles and tailor the options to your preferred gameplay experience. Fine-tune experiences you prioritize gorgeous and photorealistic lighting effects using ray tracing, sharpest resolution, blah, blah, blah. Basically, you can pick if you want it to be higher resolution or higher frame rate, which... It's on PS5, bro. Give me both.
Yeah,
come on.
That's why I put this quote in here, because I was thinking that same thing.
This isn't a PS4 Pro. This is a PS5. I want both. And if you can't do both, just do what you can and shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's Devil May Cry 5 again with Virgil as a playable character.
Now, this wasn't. This essentially sounds like their version of Devil May Cry 3 Special Edition, because wasn't Virgil also playable in that?
Probably.
Okay, it's been years since I played it. I thought you were a big Devil May Cry guy.
I like them off and on.
Okay.
And then, well, I mean, obviously they showed off a bunch of other things, but they actually showed off something that legitimately almost got me to pre-order a PS5. That fucking Demon Souls trailer was so ridiculously gorgeous, so fantastic looking. And as much as I don't need to buy a video game console for one video game, this is as close as I've gotten.
I thought so. That's why I've always been saying I'm surprised you're saying that you're not even considering it with Demon Souls.
Well, like
comes out.
the other trailer, I was like, okay, yeah, it looks good, but this one that had a lot more gameplay in it, it just looks so damn good. It's ridiculous how pretty that flipping game is, and Demon Souls needs to come out again. One thing I absolutely have to mention, while we did find out later that as a launch game, at the very end of the Demon Souls trailer, there was a blurb that said, exclusive to PS5, coming to other systems and PC at a later date.
Okay, so it's a timed exclusive of some kind.
Except for the trailer was then pulled off the internet, and an addendum was put out by Sony that this is an exclusive.
Okay, so that's what I thought originally.
It is not coming to PC, and it is not coming to other systems, period. This is a Sony PlayStation exclusive, but during the trailer, during the showcase, during the sizzle reel, there is a still image, you could find it on the internet, that states that it is coming to PC. And it's not. And I was so excited about Demon Souls, and then I saw that part, and I was like, oh my god, I'm going to play this on PC. Like, I'll build a better PC just to play this. I'm so flippin' hyped for that. And then my entire world was shattered about an hour later.
Hilarious. I love it.
Yeah.
If it makes you feel better, I was able to secure a pre-order for PlayStation 5. I don't know if I'm going to keep it or not. I kind of did it just to have it and make my mind later.
That's funny.
But if I do decide to go and pull the trigger on this, I will be buying this game day one. So feel free to mosey on over.
Sounds good. There was also the PlayStation Plus collection, which was showed off. So kind of interesting. So if you have a PS5 and you have a PS Plus membership, you get a big collection of games. So this isn't just like the monthly free games that they do. This is just almost like a PlayStation Game Pass.
I do want to mention, though, that Sony is very determined to keep people from comparing it to Game Pass, but it's impossible not to.
Yeah. Because it's a list of games that you get access to if you pay for this exclusive service that's an online service attached to your video game console. You can describe it however you want, Sony, but it's your version of Game Pass. Anyway, what was shown off during the trailer, games you get with this PlayStation Plus collection, are God of War, Monster Hunter World, Final Fantasy 15, Fallout 4, Mortal Kombat X, Uncharted 4 Thieves End, Ratchet & Clank, Days Gone, Until Dawn, Detroit Become Human, Battlefield 1, Infamous Second Son, Batman Arkham Knight, The Last Guardian, Last of Us Remastered, Persona 5, and Resident Evil 7. Were all shown on this trailer. I expect that a lot more games will be added to this service, but they have not actually said if the collection's for a limited time or whether the library would change, so we have no idea if this is a permanent thing or if this is just a bunch of games you get at the launch. But I would expect that they are definitely paying attention to what Microsoft is doing on their side of the aisle and are gearing up to have their own version of a subscription-based game service.
I think so, too. There's this idea.
There's no reason not to.
It doesn't sound like it costs anything extra on top of a PlayStation Plus membership. It's just an added perk for those who have PlayStation 5.
That's an extra advantage to Sony. Look at that. Remember for the longest time when you had to pay for online on Xbox and Sony was free, and then they finally bit the bullet and made theirs online? They've been kind of just stuck there this whole time since. So if they can add this as part of their already paid for service, as opposed to making it an additional $10, $15, $20, whatever the hell it is for Game Pass, then that's something.
I do think that this is kind of meant to be a cover for PlayStation 5, and admittedly, Xbox Series X has this too. They both have very lackluster launch window, not just launch day games, but launch window games, because everything's been fucking delayed out of God knows when. So beyond Demon Souls, I can't think of a single PlayStation 5 launch game that requires a PlayStation 5.
Yep. We then had the price confirmed, which I think we'd been talking about frequently, is rumored and assumed that it's going to be $4.99 for the disc full-on version of the PS5, $3.99 for the digital-only disc-less version. Keeping in mind that a core difference between the two versions of the PlayStation SKU are that they are completely identical at a hardware level. So they play the exact same games at the exact same resolution at the exact same frame rates. This is not, one of them is a downgraded version of the other, like you have with the Series X and S Microsoft consoles. So that's why it's a $100 difference and not a $200 difference.
And it will launch November 12th, which is 2 days after the Microsoft consoles. Now, David, there are rumors, and once again rumors, but from sources I do trust, that say the PlayStation 5 was originally going to launch at a, quote, much higher price point, which is that $5.99 discussion.
We had an article that we talked about after the release of the Xbox prices, saying that Sony had gone back to adjust their pricing prior to their reveal after hearing the Microsoft prices.
Yep, and that this price is a response to that.
I still think they were going to do $5.99.
Yeah, how much you want to bet it was originally going to be $5.99? I wish they kept that price just for the memes alone.
Yeah, because I think I had said a bunch of times, and you told me there's no way they can do it. There's no way they can do it. I'm like, I think they're going to try it.
Yeah, well, I remember my stance on that was there's no way they can release a console again at $5.99 because of its disastrous association with the PlayStation 3 until they mentioned the discless option. And then I said $5.99's back on the table because they can always go, well, you don't have to spend $5.99. You can buy
$4.99.
$4.99.
Yeah. Exactly.
And they would push the discless version, and then if you wanted the boutique version, then it would be $5.99, which is kind of the opposite of what they did to PlayStation 3. When they talked about the PlayStation 3, the $5.99 was the main focus, and if you wanted the lesser version, then you could get this one. They just would have flipped the script on it. So what do you think about $4.99 as a price for that?
It's a video game console.
Okay, it seems to line up with any time a brand new console comes out. Weird shit like the Switch aside.
Yeah, it's a video game console. $500. It's,
if you take things into consideration, it's actually one of the cheaper things to come out when you take like inflation in mind. Because I believe the PlayStation 4 also launched at $4.99, and I know the PlayStation 3 launched at $5.99, and that was back years ago when the dollar was more. So you're actually paying less inflation counted this time around than you were previously.
There you go.
But also don't forget the games are $70 a pop now.
That would I was gonna say the price being the same or slightly cheaper would matter if wages had changed at all in the last like 15 years. They also showed off God of War 2. Except for they didn't show anything, and we just got
it was literally just
logo.
a tease. It was the logo, and I think
guys,
you heard
everyone's aware of the
something.
fact that God of War 2 is going to be a thing, because of course it is, because that game did really, really well. Now, we can't talk about this whole topic without getting into the next thing. So at the end of the press conference, and while they had mentioned multiple times that they would give you plenty of time to pre-order the PlayStation 5, they then immediately said it is available to pre-order as soon as this show ends.
Yeah, the most clusterfucky thing I've ever seen.
And it was a fucking nightmare. PS5 pre-orders went up and they were gone absolutely everywhere. Almost impossible to get. I mean, unless you're constantly refreshing or checking deals or you had a bot in place or a script going, it got really, really bad. We still don't know the exact number of units that are being shipped to various regions, right? We know that it was reduced,
I expect a lot of pre-orders to get canceled.
Yeah, I 100% expect a lot of pre-orders to get canceled.
You know what's funny is I did say I got my pre-ordered. All I did was like, okay, they were announced. Let me check Target real quick, right? And I just checked Target. It's on there, and I go, okay, boom, hit it. It's like, okay, you've been pre-ordered. I didn't refresh anything. I didn't fight anything. I just saw Wario64 on Twitter post his Amazon affiliate link up there, and I went, yeah, let me click that. Let me see if it's in here real quick. Oh, there it is. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, works out.
And if I would have had to struggle with it at all, I wouldn't have bothered.
Yep. But adding to the pre-order nightmare, and we have to talk about this a little bit, is Microsoft came out after the fact and threw a little shade at Sony and said that we are going to give you plenty of time for the pre-order of the Xbox Series S/X, and it's going to come out at this day and this time, and everyone's going to be ready, and nobody's going to break the street date for pre-orders because there was that issue with like PS5 and some other stuff.
I think that's kind of what happened, is that when they said it's going to be this date, but everyone kind of just started rolling out that at different times. I think one outlet might have jumped the gun a couple hours early, and then everyone else said, "Fuck it, we can't get behind on this. Just break it, go now."
Yep. So and it was great because Microsoft said, "Oh no, we're not going to do that. Everything's going to be way better." The Xbox Series systems went live for pre-order this morning at, I think it was 6 a.m. Pacific time.
Yeah, 6 or 8, one of the two.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 6. And it's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
All sold out, all over the place. Crazy issues, orders being canceled, just tons of problems.
People who had it in the shopping carts and then they click the checkout and it's gone from their shopping cart.
Or already had it checked out, went to submit the payment information, and the amount of time it took to enter a shipping address that was gone. Just a crazy thing.
Did you also see that Xbox Ones increased on Amazon sales 700%?
747% increase in Xbox One X sales because Microsoft is fuck all stupid at naming, and it's the Wii U all over again.
Yep.
And I feel really bad for all those kids that have parents that bought the wrong Xbox for Christmas.
Yep.
Because how many of them just put it in a closet? How many people are going to get this and hide it in a closet and wrap it in Christmas? And then the kid's going to be so excited, and they're going to open and see a last-gen system.
Yeah.
Feel bad. We also have to mention the fact that the new NVIDIA Series GPUs for PC kids came out last week for pre-order. The 3080s went on sale, and even more of a nightmare than PlayStation or Microsoft.
To the point where NVIDIA had to openly apologize.
NVIDIA apologized. Retailers were just completely overwhelmed with pre-orders. I know, like PNY, that graphics card manufacturer, apparently somehow ended up with 20,000 pre-orders, and they're like, we aren't even making that many.
I didn't know that. Holy hell.
We don't have that many in the warehouse ready to go for launch date. So now they're going through and they have to cancel orders.
I've been on the end of people who had to cancel things for people who make those very awkward calls. That sucks.
Yeah, but it's like not we need to go cancel 400. It's they need to cancel thousands of pre-orders.
Yeah.
So it's a complete nightmare. And they always talk about how, there are bot protection and scalpers and blah, blah, blah. And immediately all this shit, the Sony, the PlayStation, the Xbox, all that is immediately up on eBay for twice, 3 times, 4 times, 6 times.
I see stuff like that already.
There was a 3080 on eBay for $70,000.
You know what the terrifying thing is? I wouldn't be surprised if some asshole buys that.
What's funny is there was a thread going around of, well, fuck it, let's just screw with the scalpers and everybody just bid these into oblivion and then no one pay for it.
I've seen that going on too, where people are deliberate. Like there's this concerted effort to prevent scalpers from selling their stuff online.
So they just bid until it's a ridiculous number.
Yep. That works on some sites, not all of them.
Sure.
So just keep that in mind. For example, if you try doing that on like every auction site, I think you can choose not to buy with. But if some scalper, for example, puts it up on Amazon for like $30,000, well, there's nothing.
Yeah, if you buy it there, you're screwed.
Yeah. Yeah. So just something to keep in mind. David, we have a couple more stories related to Nintendo because we can't talk about Microsoft and Sony and leave Nintendo out of this. Their stories weren't as big, but they did have some news come out. They had a Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Showcase that happened last week, and they announced some things, much like the PlayStation 5 Showcase topic we were talking about. This is not going to be a comprehensive list of everything that happened there. You can, of course, watch the Direct on YouTube right now. But I wanted to mention a couple things. One, Monster Hunter got a lot of love. They announced both Monster Hunter Rise coming to the Switch on March 26th of next year, and Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin, which is currently scheduled sometime in 2021 during the summer. What do you think about these games? Because I'm not the Monster Hunter guy. I played World, but that's my only familiarity with it. Rise looked a lot like G to me, and Stories apparently
is
something else.
more of like an adventure game. I didn't play the first one, but I know some people that like it. Rise kind of fits what a lot of us assumed we would get on the Switch as far as the Monster Hunter series, where they're going to kind of break the franchise into two games. One that follows where the original franchise kind of ended up in the more arcadey, anime-y, like over-the-top action-y game. That's what Rise really feels like, whereas World is the kind of, it's hard to say grounded because it's just as ridiculous, but you kind of get an idea of what I'm saying, right? Like
Yes.
one is the more serious grown-up game, and one of them is a bit more over the top. And Rise seems to fit the bill on looking more like an original gen styled Monster Hunter game, but we don't know exactly what it's going to entail. I took one look at it and said, cool, that's exciting. If I have to worry about pickaxes breaking, or if I have to mine or buy whetstones, I'm fucking out.
Fair enough.
I will
Monster
not
Hunter
go back.
World definitely simplified all the grindy
And I know a lot of
from that
people
game.
absolutely adore the old Monster Hunter style of gameplay, and I've got thousands and thousands of hours in these games.
I don't
I
got
did my
time for that anymore.
It's fine. Monster Hunter World added so many quality of life features to the franchise that I cannot go back. I just can't. But I do believe that Rise is using the old weapon combat system.
Okay.
So it'll have more other stuff. It also doesn't have the same grappling hook. It's got some other things going on.
What about Stories 2? Did you ever play Monster Hunter Stories?
I didn't play Stories. It's more, story driven, more of an adventure game set in universe.
Okay.
But I might actually take a look at it because I've heard a bunch of good things post seeing this reveal trailer.
All right. You are the Monster Hunter guy, so I wanted you to lead on that one. We also had Disgaea 6 Defiance of Destiny announced. It's the first Disgaea game since 2015. It's Disgaea. Expect solid strategy JRPG stuff with stupidly high numbers.
With ridiculously over-the-top attacks.
Yes. And then finally, something that I thought was actually kind of cool. I won't be getting it because I already own these, but it's definitely something worth taking a look at if you haven't. Ori and the Will of the Wisp is on Switch today, or when this was announced last week. And it's also getting a really cool special edition physical version that comes with Ori the Will of the Wisps and Ori and the Blind Forest, both of which are really amazing games. I cannot recommend them enough, especially if you like a quasi-Metroidvania style.
Edition because I only ever played the first one and I thought it was great, but I tried to play the newer one and my computer just wouldn't recognize my controller for some reason, and I could not get the game to a playable state. And I'm not about to mouse and keyboard it, so I just stopped trying.
That's unfortunate. Weird that it wouldn't recognize your controller.
Well, I was playing it on Game Pass with a PS4 controller.
Okay. I can see why there could be some weirdness there.
There's certain like Microsoft adjacent or studio adjacent games that just don't work. Like I can't play Forza with a PlayStation controller, but I can play basically anything else that's on there.
Yeah, there's I remember reading about what the problem was a while ago, and I just don't remember what it is. But there is like a known issue that just is a bitch to get around.
Yeah, and there's technically a fix for it, but it's a bunch of work, and
yeah.
Sorry, my games work for the most part, so I don't want to deal with that.
And then the final bit of Nintendo news that I want to go over, and this is via The Verge. Nintendo has discontinued every model of the 3DS, according to its Japanese website. The page lists for the page lists all the current quote-unquote 3DSs, but each product listed as out of production under its name, and a message on the main page says that the entire series has ended production. It's not clear when this changed, but several Japanese Twitter users did notice it a couple afternoons ago. It's about time. I can't remember the last time I even looked at the 3DS was. I remember Street Pass being a cool thing for when it first came out, but honestly, the Switch really did cross over that boundary between a console and a handheld for me.
Yep.
Like Nintendo nailed it with that.
There's no reason. I haven't turned on my 3DS since I got a Switch.
Yeah, same here. It got to the point where I couldn't even play it anymore because I can't have my head down like this. It just stretches, like looking down, it hurts my neck too much. Which is a shame because now that means I want Switch ports of like Radiant, Historia, and
I want Link Between Worlds on Switch.
Yeah, I want all those great 3DS games now on Switch. And yes, I know Switch port begging is kind of a thing, but fuck, I want them on the Switch.
Yeah, just give me every damn Nintendo game that's been released from beginning of Nintendo to now and just put it on Switch. Just be done with it.
Before I move on to new releases, David.
Yes.
I want to put in something in here. We don't normally do this, but I want to mention some board game news because two big things happened as far as it relates to me. If you
Okay.
don't know, this show is completely entirely done because it's something that I find interesting, not because other people might find interesting. That's 100% of the show. That's why we led with Freedom Fighters at the beginning.
That's true.
First, Hero Quest is kind of coming back. Hasbro is doing their own version of a Kickstarter for it. Now, for those of you who don't know, Hero Quest was kind of like an early or late 80s baby's first D&D.
Yep.
If you've ever played Descent or Imperial Assault, and I don't mean video game Descent, I mean the board game Descent, or Imperial Assault, or anything like that, all of those are kind of successors to what Hero Quest was, where you have someone playing as like a game master and the bad guy of the dungeon, and then you get other people playing various characters fighting against them. Really interesting idea. I think it was a little too complex for the target audience on by and large. However, if you were able to get a dedicated group of like four or five kids together, and one of them didn't mind being the bad guy, myself, for example, in this case, that game was really goddamn cool, and it was a great way to kind of ease people into the idea of Dungeons and Dragons. Did you have any familiarity with Hero Quest? I think it was before your time.
I am aware of it, but no, I never actually touched Hero Quest.
More importantly, however, the 7th Citadel Kickstarter went live today. Now, the 7th Citadel, made by the same guys who made the 7th Continent, which is one of the greatest single-player board games I've ever played. I cannot recommend it enough. I'm not going to get into details about it on here because this is more video game-based, but take a look at it on Board Game Geek. It is very high up on the charts most of the time, and very hard to secure a copy of that game with all the expansions these days. They go for way more than they should now these days. But if you liked the 7th Continent, take a look at the 7th Citadel as well. David?
Which totally crushes Kickstarter goal already.
Yeah, it hit it within like an hour. Like,
yeah,
not even close. As expected because of how well received the 7th Citadel
At the time of this recording, it's close to $1.2 million of its $350,000 goal.
That does not surprise me. That game will break $5 million.
Hero Quest is not doing as well.
No.
It'll probably still make it, but not with those numbers.
No, I think there's a lot of nostalgia behind Hero Quest, admittedly, but I am not paying. Like they're asking for a board game that doesn't seem like it's changed its mechanics at all. They're more or less just reprinting this. It's not just 100; it's 150 if you want all of it.
And 7 Citadel is $70.
Yes.
So
and I can guarantee you're going to get more playtime out of 7 Citadel.
There you go.
David, that does it for the news. Let's go ahead and move on into new releases. I don't have a clever segue because we talked about board game shit.
Speaking of things that are new, video games coming out this week. We've got Tennis World Tour 2 for PS4 and Xbox One. I think it's already on PC. It's a pro tennis game. It's a sim tennis game. It's got top players. It's got different surfaces, I guess. Perfect your game and strive to dominate the world circuit. Multiple game modes, singles and doubles games, local and online, blah, 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 tennis.
I know nothing about tennis, so...
I know that sometimes you say love, and I think you're trying to get to 13, or is it 21?
I think you know as much about tennis as I do.
Yeah, dude. I think you're not supposed to step outside of the line. I have no idea.
I think a lot of people shouldn't step out of the lines, to be fair.
Rebel Galaxy Outlaw is out on console this week, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. Important to note that it is also finally out on Steam. It has been on PC for a while, but it was an Epic exclusive. It's been on Epic for, I think, a year now. So there you go. Now it's everywhere else.
I really want to like these games more than I do.
This is a space sim action adventure game. Out of cash, out of luck, out on the fringe. You got a killer on your tail, a debt to pay, and more trouble headed your way. Rebel Galaxy Outlaw takes place in a greasy blue collar world of outlaws, truckers, cops, and thieves. It is a kind of spacey adventure game that a lot of people will make comparisons to like Freelancer, those styles of games. And from what I've read, I do really want to play this game as well. But this game very much feels like Freelancer in a good and bad way. It doesn't feel like a new game so much as it feels like Freelancer.
Yeah, Freelancer was good, but it's also like 10 plus years old.
Yeah. So there's some issue, like people are having issues like, the combat's not as good and it's a little clunky, and other people are like, it's like a perfect recreation of this other game that I love. So your miles may vary.
Like I said, I just wish I liked this series more because there's a bunch of quality of life issues that just never got hammered out since the last freelance that I would like to see in this, and they did not do
Yep.
it.
13 Sentinels Aegis Rim hits PS4. This is a interesting game. It's a 2D side-scrolling adventure. It's got really cool art environments, but it's almost like a what do you call those, like visual novel
It
style
is.
action
I was
RPGs,
playing this
where
earlier today.
where
It's
you're
very
talking to
visual
people.
novel-y.
But then it also turns into a weird giant mecha versus kaiju battle top-down combat game, where your characters are all generic-y, like high
It looks like
school-aged
you're in
somebodies
a.
that can also magically drive giant mechs
It's
with no training
really
whatsoever.
wild so far too, because there's a time travel mechanic involved, and there's like 4 different timelines that they don't explain anything yet because it's just jumping around all these timelines. I have no idea what's going on. I'm playing it on the pedigree of the studio alone because they're the same guys that made Odin Sphere.
Mhm.
But man, it's I have a hard time recommending it at this point because I have no idea what the hell's going on, and I'm like 4 hours into the game and I still have no fucking clue what's going on.
Hilarious. Also out this week, we've got Unrailed for PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. This is a co-op multiplayer game that it sounds simple. You're trying to basically build a train track across endlessly procedurally generated worlds with random encounters, and you're upgrading your train, and you're trying to keep it from derailing. And it, like, looking at it, looks like an isometric, like Minecrafty visual style train builder, where basically you have a train that's just constantly chewing its way to the right of the screen, and you are scrambling with a team of friends to go chop down trees and mine rocks so that you can build the tracks in front of the train before it runs out of track.
It reminds me a lot of Blastcore for some reason.
It seems kind of interesting as a co-op party game. I think it also has local play. Castle Storm 2 hits PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. Did you play Castle Storm?
No.
Okay, Castle Storm is interesting. It's like a mismatch, like, of different games. It's like kind of a strategy tactical game mixed with like a side scrolling action game where you're controlling like a group of, I don't know, warriors, so you're knights, or you're playing as troll. I don't know. There's a bunch of different like campaigns you can play, right? So you can fight against undead, or you can be the undead, or generic fantasy tropes. But while you're sometimes controlling the game from like a tactical perspective, you'll also jump into an individual unit. So like, I'm going to be this swordsman, and then I'm going to walk to the right, and I'm going to try and fight the enemy stronghold. Like, so it's interesting, and it's got 2 full story-driven campaigns. I don't know. Castle Storm was pretty neat, so go them for having a second one, I guess. Cool games getting sequel, that's fine. Drone Racing League Simulator comes out for Xbox One. This is, I'm going to read this. The premier FPV racing game and simulator. The DRL Sim offers a robust, evolving feature set, including high-intensity drone racing. It packs tracks that DRL's real-world pilots compete on, with more added every season. And it's the only place to find DRL's exclusive drone, the Racer 4. Of all the sim games that have come out in the last, 10 years, this is the one I am the least interested in.
All right, fair enough.
By far. Drone racing is pretty cool. If you watch those guys fly the drones around, it's neat. Flying a drone is also fun. Flying a virtual drone in a racing game is just, man, it just takes all the interest of that.
You're flying something you control with a mouse and keyboard already, and putting a mouse and keyboard between you and it.
It's just weird.
And I'm using the term mouse and keyboard loosely.
Yeah. Art of Rally hits PC and Mac this week. I'm probably playing this as soon as it comes out in 11 hours. Race in the golden area of Rally, drive iconic course from the 60s to Group B on challenging stages through stylized environments inspired by real-world wide locations. So the thing about this is it's not a regular rally game. It's not WRC. It's not Dirt. It's not any of those. It is a very stylized, very, very simplistic game. So much like I was all excited about that whatever other racing game a couple of weeks ago that looked like
I can't remember, but I know it reminded me of Daytona USA.
This also has a very simple, clean, almost what the hell do you call it? Like polygonal graphic style for the vehicles.
Okay.
And the stages are very simple, and the humans are just basically two dots jumping around. But the whole point of it is it's meant to be a relaxing trip through rally history. And it's got this really chill soundtrack, and I don't know, it looks crazy fun to me, so I'm gonna play it. There you go. Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 Complete Edition hits Switch and PC. This is a strategy sim sandbox in the Roller Coaster Tycoon franchise, where you're basically going to build a ridiculous themed amusement park and, I don't know, try and throw people off roller coasters. That's what I normally try to do in these games. Just see how far you can toss.
I remember playing the old roller coaster tycoons and deliberately just deleting the roller coasters to see them go launching as well.
Exactly, that's the whole move. Tears of Avia is Xbox One, PC, and Mac game, turn-based strategy and tactics game set in the world of Astera. You're navigating through war-torn environments, discovering secrets behind ancient, long-abandoned cities, and decide where your morality ultimately lies. I don't know, it's neat enough. It's a turn-based strategy. I think there can always be more of those. Going Under hits PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. This is an action roguelike beat-em-up.
I have heard good things about this.
It is a satirical dungeon crawler about exploring the cursed ruins of failed tech startups. As an unpaid intern in the dystopian city of Neo Cascadia.
Okay, I didn't know that was the plot to it. Now I'm way more interested in this.
You'll wield office junk as weaponry as you make your way through the offbeat procedural dungeons beneath your company campus. And in the most ridiculous twist in the world, looking at the fucking Steam tags on this goddamn video game, it has the most cursed Souls-like as one of its descriptors. Looking at this video game, I get absolutely none of that. Maybe there's checkpoints. Maybe there's bonfires. I have no idea. It's a fucking procedurally generated like roguelike. How do you whatever, guys.
I have heard good things about this game, but I didn't know the plot was you were exploring the depths of abandoned tech startups.
Kind of hilarious. Panzer Dragoon has a remake out this week on PC. A pretty famous, infamous on-rails shooter where you're flying around on a dragon. Those games were pretty cool. People like those. Remade version of the Panzer Dragoon, true to the original with improved graphics and controls that suit modern gaming standards. If you've never heard of Panzer Dragoon, it probably won't do anything for you. Let's be real. But if you like Panzer Dragoon,
I'll get it. But I remember when Panzer Dragoon Orta came out and they had the audacity to charge $50 for that.
Yep.
Which is fine, but also finished in like 2 hours.
There's a video game for Troll Hunters Defenders of Arcadia for PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. It's a kid's game.
Isn't this Guillermo del Toro's cartoon?
I don't know. It's a licensed kids cartoon video game. Okay. I did no more research than that.
that's the kind of effort I expect from this show.
Hell yeah. Port Royale 4 for PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. This is a strategy sim, economy trading game, set sail and join to the colonial powers of Spain, England, France, and the Netherlands in their fight for supremacy of the Caribbean in the 17th century. So very much sim strategy shenanigans. And last but not least, the definitive edition of Mafia comes out this week, which I think you were kind of interested in. PS4, Xbox One, and PC. It's that game that came out a while ago. I don't know. We've talked back and forth about this game and how Mafia is like neat and has
Mafia 3 has an amazing story, bad gameplay.
And it's the definitive edition that makes it look a lot better, but I don't know if it plays any better. So
if this is the version I think of it is a complete remake of it.
Is this the remake? Okay.
I think so.
I know that one of the Mafia games was getting like a full-on remake treatment. The other ones just had like an HD remaster. So maybe Mafia, the first one, is the one that was kind of like ground up, rebuilt, retooled to be a kind of new game, whereas the other ones were just re-released.
I'm double checking this right now to make sure, but yeah, this is the like complete ground up remake with extra new quests and stories and all that good stuff.
Yeah, if you have no idea, it's a game about a regular old cab driver who gets thrust into the world of organized crime and kind of falls in with a mob family, and it, keeps going from there.
Mafia 2 was it was all right. The remaster, whatever it is, really sucked. Mafia 3, everything about Mafia 3 was amazing except for the gameplay, which, I mean, go from there, right? Whenever you hear Rolling Stones, you know some shit's about to go down. The first Mafia I never played.
Okay.
So I might actually give this a shot. We'll see. But with everything else coming out right now, I don't know if I can justify going back to play a game that, while remade, to justify a game that came out, 15 years ago at this point? Because it was a PlayStation 2 game.
Damn. Okay, yeah, so that one it does have to be the remake.
Yeah.
That's fair, though, dude. I've been playing Dragon's Dogma. What are you going to do?
David, that does it for new releases, which means that also does it for the show. This has been GamePoints episode 233. Thank you all for showing up. I do appreciate it. We'll be back next Tuesday, at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for the next episode of this. We'd love it for you to join us live over at Twitch TV/GamePoints. If you can't join us live, however, you can also watch old episodes of the show over at YouTube.com/GamePointsPC. You can follow the show on Twitter at GamePointsPC, myself, Stephen Brown, at CapitalistPig21, and David there over at Palshif_Satori. There's a Discord that you can join down below there, as well as all the links to informations and videos to the stories we talked about today. I'll be back tomorrow here doing regular video game streaming at 1 p.m., starting off with Freedom Fighters, and then who knows what else after that. Once again, thank you all for showing up. This has been Game Points. We're out of here.